The next area we're going to talk about is procurement. And for 5307 recipients, you will find this a challenging area as you review this area with FTA. 5311, we've pretty much set it up for subrecipients. So if you have our procurement plan along with the checklist and that you follow the checklist, you're going to be okay. So I'm going to share with you, let's see, my screen. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. So I've talked about the deficiencies that we've had in previous triennial reviews and state management reviews. But now we're going, so now we're going to talk about the procurement areas, and one of the challenging areas of procurement is that, and I want to read to you something from the Federal Register, or actually from FDA, is that a non-federal entity must use its own document procurement procedures which reflect applicable state, local, and tribal laws and regulations, and to conform with federal law and standards. So they're saying in that is that they're not going to provide you a how to do it, but they're going to say that what you put together as your procurement plan must apply to all the federal laws. And there are quite a bit clauses. There are quite a few clauses. So with that, some of the findings, and this is coming from FTA, not from GDOT, but no, I'm sorry, this is from GDOT because this is GDOT compliance findings. In the procurement area, there were several findings. The bid protest procedures. Oftentimes we'll do a solicitation, but we don't include the procedures for filing a protest for that. So that's another document you need. Documenting SAM's debarments and suspension. SAM.gov is the clearinghouse for all eligible vendors to compete for federal funds. So the law is that if you are a debarred vendor, then you are not to participate at all in any federal procurement activities. So with the SAM's check, what I strongly suggest that people do would be to do the review as soon as you learn of a vendor's interest. And when you do the review, you should date that review, make a copy of it. If the date is not on the copy, make sure you date it when you did the review, date stamp it somehow, because what we're going to look for is not only that you have it, but that you had it before the award was made. And that's the requirement, basically. So as soon as you learn of a vendor's interest in your product, I don't know, they made a phone call to the office, they asked for a copy of the RFP or IFP, or I would do my SAM's check right then and there and have it handy, because that's what we're going to look for, to make sure that it predates the actual award of the contract. So, and the other areas were for the micro purchases. I meant the checklist. Again, if you're 5311, you have that checklist. That checklist is in the procurement plan. If you follow the procurement plan and complete all of the checklists included, you will be fine as far as procurement oversight goes. And that checklist pretty much explains at different thresholds what are your options for doing your purchase, whether or not it's a micro purchase or a small purchase or a large purchase. And each one has a different set of clauses, and I'll get to that later on. There are federal clauses that are required for small versus large, and for construction versus vehicle purchase and operating, and so on and so on. Again, this is why this is the most challenging field to navigate, is because there are so many different requirements for so many different type of projects. And the last comment was independent cost estimates. That's a big one. In the last series of compliance reviews, we had everyone did a checklist or an independent cost estimate at some point. But they did it for this project, but they didn't do it for that project. Or they did it for the earlier part of the project, but then the project got amended and they didn't do a revision to the second part. So we're going to look and make sure that the independent cost estimates are adequate and kept up, and temporal, I guess is the word. Make sure that it's current with what you're doing for the project. There's also a price analysis, where you're going, if you're bidding on a project, we want to make sure that you do price analysis. That's all in your checklist that we provided to the subrecipients. If you don't have a copy of it, please see me and I will make sure that you get a copy of it, because it's very important. But what we've put together here at GDOT, if you follow that, you should have no problems with meeting the requirements of the law for procurement activities. So, let's see. Contract provisions. These are third-party contract provisions. As I mentioned earlier, if you're doing a project of a certain dollar amount, then there are certain requirements. And I apologize if this is very hard to read, but there are clauses. Each one, the federal government has clauses, and I'm going to walk you through some of these. I have a few that are my favorite, actually. So you have a set of clauses. These are all the different provisions that are required by law for transit operators. And what we're going to look at, the first is for all FTA-assisted third-party contracts and subcontracts. And you have a clause for the, what is this, government obligations and third parties. That's the expenditure of federal funds for non-governmental agencies or something like that. And then the fraudulent statement, that gets back to the legal setup that I mentioned earlier, where we're going to look and see that the agency, or the entity, I should say, has a sound, reasonable legal backing for receipt of federal funds. That's a better way to say it. Access to third-party contracts. That means you have to have access to and oversight of the third-party vendor that you're going to see, that we're not going to just give you money, you take it and you do whatever, that there is some reciprocity and oversight and monitoring of that. Gosh, some of these, and civil rights, Title VI, ADA, EEO, all those. And then if your award is exceeding 10,000, you have the terminations and the EEO provisions for construction contracts. And for awards exceeding 25,000, you have the debarment and suspension, which is the SAMS report that I mentioned earlier. But it's best to have that. Buy America, that's a newer provision, at least in my mind. I think it came out early. I'm not going to even speculate, but it's fairly new. And that's a big one, especially with construction. Well, no, bus procurements are a big one on that, but also some construction elements are difficult to get that have a Buy America waiver, or assignment to it. And let's see. So we have oh, sorry, I changed. And then we have for awards of 100,000 or more, we have the lobbying clause that you should have included clean air and clean water. Now, one of the things with these, hello, Ms. Harris. One of the things with this, with the clauses is that it, they should be included in your contracts. However, it's best to also include them in your solicitation when you're preparing an RFP or an IFP, that you want to make sure that the vendor bidding on your project is aware of the federal clauses that will be required of them. So it's nothing worse than, and I've never had this happen, never, but there's nothing worse than having a contract awarded to someone and then they say, oh no, we can't comply with clean air or clean water or lobbying, or we have done some lobbying. So that's one of the provisions. And then we have other provisions here. And for transport of persons, you have the cargo preference. That's generally for shipping and Fly America, that you will fly on U.S. airlines and all that stuff. But one of my favorite, and since I have the floor, I'm going to share with you Davis Bacon. Davis Bacon is an interesting, it's one of my favorite clauses. And for those who are not familiar with it, it was, it came out of the FDR administration, President Roosevelt, where he had the New Deal program and where they were after post depression, the government was looking to do a lot of public work projects. They were handing out contracts to these contractors to build public facilities. Anyway, one of the contractors awarded in I think it's New York, New Jersey, somewhere up there. Decided they were not going to hire the workers from the New York area, that they went to find migrant workers in Alabama and ship them up to New York. And it was Senators Bacon and Davis. I guess they're senators from New York, said this is not going to happen. So they came up with an act that you must pay a prevailing wage rate to the employees that are going to do your project. So you cannot compare what folks in another part of the country is getting paid and to what the workers in your local area demand as a wage rate. So I thought that was an interesting story, interesting background on that one. But needless to say, and I kind of omit this, but the folks from Alabama took a lot less than the people in New York. Let's see. So then we have the construction employee work hours and contract and bonding. Seismic activity is another clause. And there's another one in here I like. Okay, I guess that's it. Oh, yeah, the kickback clause. Another favorite one was Senator Copeland, and I think this was also during the 1930s. It is not required. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. What had happened, it was a process where you could get a contract, a vendor could get a contract to do the work on the government project. However, there were kickbacks, and they said, we're not going to allow kickbacks. But what's most interesting, and I'm going to stop sharing that one, and I'm going to share this one. What's most interesting to me about this provision is how it's worded. And I'm going to share it to you. So this is the Copeland Act, and it does not say that you can't do kickbacks, but although it is kind of implied here, it says it makes it unlawful to induce by force, intimidation, threat of procurement, procuring dismissal from employment or otherwise any person employed in the construction and repair of public buildings, public works financed in whole or part by the United States, to give part of that compensation to the person which is entitled under contract. Now, it only what that doesn't say is that you can't pay them, but it says that you are required to get what is your fair compensation. So that's the Copeland Act and the Anti-Kickback Act. But that comes with large construction projects there. Okay, now I'm gonna go back over here and see what else. So the other element they wanted me to talk about this morning was the DBE process. Some of the areas that we found complaints, not complaints, findings for DBEs are goal methodology. That's mostly 5307 and state management reviews. Unreported vehicle purchases. These are, I'm not sure if these are things that would apply to most 5311 recipients, but these are definitely some areas that the 5307 recipients may want to keep an eye out on. Any revisions to the programs that were made and other findings that you have not revised them would be a dual finding. Prompt payment. That's a good one. Prompt payment. There should be a methodology where all DBE contractors are paid within, I think it's 30 days. So you have to have a process in place to ensure and guarantee that every DBE vendor is paid within 30 days, net 30. Process, you do not want to get a complaint filed by a DBE on you for non-payment or late payment. Let's see. A DBE reports not timely. That is again a requirement of 5307 and GDOT. I think that's pretty much it that would apply to 5311. Generally, you're going to hear from me, most subrecipients are going to hear from me in about 5 different areas. One will be DBE, the other one would be the submissions of your drug and alcohol reports, and that's an annual submission. DBEs, the compliance reviews, your TAM plan submissions and information, as well as your safety plan. But we can talk about those if there are any questions. I think that's all I have. Now, what I want to show you, let me see. Stop sharing this. Yeah, here it is. Okay, where is it? Okay, I can't see it. Gosh darn. Oh. Someone tell me if a window is open for the GDOT website. Okay. Okay, no, that's not it. So, okay, I'm gonna share this. Okay, can you see that? The GDOT website. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so this is the GDOT website for DBEs. Oftentimes I'm told we cannot find a DBE. We don't know a DBE in the area, and that's a correct process. I'm sure the statement is correct, but I wanted to show everyone how GDOT tracks and services DBE vendors. So this is on the GDOT website, and I've been working with the DBE office to get a more simple email web address. I think this is too long and too confusing. So my suggestion would be that you go to g.ga.gov and probably type over here DBE, and perhaps it would take you to this place, this page. I'm on this page a lot, so I have it saved in my favorites. So, but if you, this is the site. So as you scroll down through the site, you'll see where they have a help desk where DBEs can call in and ask questions and get help for their applications or their recertifications. They're actually having a teleconference, a 30-minute teleconference later this month. I think that's next week. And then they have programs that help and support DBE vendors. A disadvantaged business does not necessarily mean minority business. It means it's a disadvantaged business. It could be a woman-owned business. It could be a smaller business. It's disabled businesses are also another thing that I've noticed lately. There are a lot of those coming up, and it's just something to keep in mind. You can be a small business and still be considered a DBE. So they have a DBE toolkit here where DBE vendors can help with whatever process that they're having, setting up their small business. And these are opportunities for probably solicitations for available work. I'm sorry, I heard someone. Is there a question? Okay. And project lighting and forecasting. But this is what I wanted to show you. Oh, yeah, and they have how to become a DBE and the different things in English and in Spanish. But this is where I go to. I go to directories, and then I go to the UCE directory, which is right. And so what you could do is you could come to this page and you can put in your county. You could select the NAICS code for the type of work that you want. And I just picked one. And apply. And then it should list, oh, okay, I guess, or some other characters you could select. I'm not sure why it's doing that for Clayton. Well, maybe there are none for that particular NAICS code, but this will give you an opportunity to look at. Let's check it. Uncheck that. And now let's see. Why? Yeah, and so then it will give you a list of all the registered DBE vendors in, I think this is Clayton County. Yeah, so, and their contact information is there as well. And you can make, it is acceptable to reach out to DBEs when you're subbing out if you're looking to release an RFP, you could let them know, send them a page of your solicitation or a link to your RFP, letting them know or making them aware of it. I would, if you choose to do that, I would strongly advise that you make a list of all the DBEs that you reach out to, so that you can show that good faith effort in making those outreach calls. I think that's about it. I mean, I could go on, but I'm going to stop and see if anyone has any questions. Are there any? Any question? Carrie, can you help me? I don't know if I'm seeing any.
I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see anyone.
So there's nothing? Okay. Well, when you do your DB reports, we're looking at, I guess I should have had one of those pages, but I did not. One of the forms, so I'm gonna stop sharing. When you do your DBE reports, it's important that you count only federally funded monies. We're not concerned with local share. We're not concerned with any other state matches for your grants. We're only interested in federal funds and what percentage of those funds are used to support businesses, DBE businesses in Georgia. Currently, we have a 6.02% participation, and that is telling FTA that we will use 6%, 6.02% of all federal funds for the purposes of promoting small businesses in our area. And thanks to you, many of you, we've exceeded that. So I'm very grateful for that. If you're unable to provide any DVE, it's okay. But we ask that you complete the good faith effort statement that I will also send out. We do it twice a year. I think it's June and December. And that statement would list all the opportunities that you had to make contact, if any, with a DBE participant or DBE vendor. And we track that and monitor that and keep it on file for your next review and everything. I really think that's about all I have.